I'd like to thank the great gates of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the compassion and mercy of grand predecessors, transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, and everyone for giving me this chance, this opportunity today to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 36 of the Tao Te Ching, Classic of the Way and the Virtue. Okay, you guys can see this overview. Chapter 36. Its title is called Subtle Clarity, 为明章. Okay, so it's a medium size, medium length, roughly medium length chapter. It's divided into two sections. All right, there's four pairs of couplets in the first section. Okay, four pairs of couplets. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then there's a conclusion. Okay, all right, at the end. So it's just two sections. Okay, so now let's go to the outline. All right. Okay. Chapter 36. Okay. So first couplet, okay, is if one wishes to shrink it, one must first expand it. Okay. All right. This word xi. Yeah. Okay. Now, in modern usage, it means to fold, to furl, means to fold, to wrap up, okay, to shut, okay, to close. Okay, it could also mean amiable and compliant as an adjective. But in ancient usage, it just means to make something smaller, to reduce it in size, to shrink, okay, or to deflate in terms of ego, position, prestige, position, okay, to bring down a notch, if you will, modern use. Okay. All right. Let's. Okay. Zang. It means to stretch, so it's the opposite. Okay, of xi. Okay, in the ancient use. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So the basic meaning of this line: if one wishes to shrink it, one must first expand it. So it seems very ambiguous, right? Very okay. There are you can say two levels of perspective. Okay, first, it's more broad. It's broader. Okay, so it's to say, okay, globally or global, yeah, the world. It's sages, by observing and being students of history, sages were able to see kingdoms expand through conquests and become larger, more powerful empires. But after a while, a period of time, the empires would disintegrate from within and eventually collapse. This was a cycle that repeated itself many times throughout history. So the expansion, which is the strengthening, right, the growth, strengthening of an empire in this case, followed by shrinking or the weakening, right, the reduction in status and stature seem to be a pattern. So sages see this, in not just in the human realm, all over the world, how uh, kingdoms, empires, dynasties, they expand, but then they also collapse. Okay, so it's like it's a natural cycle. It seems to repeat. Okay, all over. All right. So another meaning is, now that refers to empires, I guess. So since this expansion, then shrinking cycle was repeating itself, it would appear to follow the pattern of a Tao, like a principle or law of nature. So it must be part of a natural cycle of Tao, part of the principle of Tao, like a natural law that applies to everything. such as the rise and fall of empire. So an analogy would be just like in nature, right? We see the waxing and waning of the moon, for example, right? So just what's that? 10 days ago? Yeah, about what's that? A little over a week ago, we had uh, the uh, the Lunar New Year, right? Okay, so that's the we say new moon, right? So just if you look at it, it just it's like it's like obscure. It's not full, right? It's very maybe thin. You can see a thin. I don't know what do you call that. Arc, right, of the moon, right? And then by the time the 15th of the lunar calendar, right, it'll become a full moon. So that's the waxing, right? That means it it becomes full, right, from a tiny, say, sliver, right, arc, right, tiny arc, in the new moon. Actually, it's really, I don't say it's invisible, but it's not bright. It's still circular, but it's not bright. Okay, so you just see a tiny sliver, right, in the new moon, right, and then by the time that's the first, right, of the lunar calendar, then by the time it reaches the 15th, it's a full moon, and then when it reaches the full moon, then the opposite of her gradually what it wanes, so it becomes what half a moon, and then tiny sliver back to the new moon again. By the time it reaches the 28th, or yeah, 28th of the lunar calendar, because it's every 4 weeks anyway. So then the whole cycle repeats again. So similar, all right, to that idea. Now, with respect to humans, okay, sages were also observers and students of human nature, like an arrogant person or bully that is similar to an expanding empire, that they could anticipate that person's eventual downfall because they had seen it happen repeatedly with powerful empires throughout history. So sages know that an arrogant, haughty, and proud person becoming powerful is only a prequel to their eventual collapse and downfall, right? So nothing lasts, right? All these different various phases or stages, if you will, of, in this case, humans, but also likewise, parallel with civilizations or empires, et cetera, right? So if you look at history, if we're students of history, observers of history or human nature, you know, we don't see an empire that lasts forever, right? The Roman Empire, right? It's gone. The British Empire, the Great Britain, British Empire, the sun never sets on its flag throughout the world. Well, it's almost 100 years after, after their decline. Every empire, China, same thing. The Qing Empire, and then before that, the Ming Empire, the dynasties, okay, et cetera, et cetera. So it repeats, right? The Egyptians, same thing. The Greeks, same thing. The Persians, same thing, et cetera, et cetera. All right? Okay. All right. Now, here's the further understanding is with respect to humans, this wisdom from the ancient times are found throughout the world as well. Okay, so not just in the Tao Te Ching or in ancient China, such as this phrase, you've all heard of it: pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. That's from the book of Proverbs. Okay, that's that's called Zhen Yan, right? Chapter 16, verse 18. Okay. All right. So there's a deeper meaning of xi, okay, and that's this. It means to collapse, to combine or join together, okay. all right, not to reduce. Okay, so here's what another understanding, a deeper understanding is ancient sages all over the world have noted the role arrogance has played, whether in the expansion and collapse of empires or on the part of persons thinking that they can do no wrong before their eventual downfall. Okay, since the overinflated ego is its own strongest defense, the direct approach is unlikely to work. The more effective approach is to inflate the ego even more. Okay, so that's like reverse psychology, passive aggressive. Okay, so if you notice, throughout history, nearly all of the, you can say, the founders of new empires or dynasties, you know if you look at Napoleon, right, the French imperial empire, about 200 years ago, so or even before then, let's see, the Roman Empire, you have Augustus Caesar, among others, Julius Caesar, Augustus. Then you have, even before that, well, no, after that. Yeah, let's look at the East. You have one of the greatest or the largest empires, right, in the world in terms of, geographic area, and that's the Mongol Empire, right? First initially under Genghis Khan, and then under his grandson Kublai Khan. Okay, they all are very egocentric. They all have, they're pretty arrogant. Okay, they're all pretty arrogant. Okay, but some of them, I mean, not all of them. Some of them, either during their lifetimes or not long after their passing, their empire collapsed, or you can say, yeah, were overextended, so they end up being on the decline. I mean, some historians will say, well, there's, they're either their followers, either either their sons or grandsons, the future leaders after the founders weren't as capable. Okay, that's partly true too, but eventually this arrogance, becomes too much, overextended. All right, so, and once you become overextended, then that's the prequel to a contraction or the downfall. Okay, so just as the ego expands, this person, convinced of their own righteousness or superiority, will end up doing something so foolish, which brings about their own downfall. So, in order to shrink something, okay, it first needs to expand. Right? Only after something expands, then it collapses. Then it can collapse together. Okay, so this concept is based on observation of nature, where living things grow strong, right? They flourish, right? They develop, they grow bigger, right? Bigger, and then they hit a peak. They'll hit a peak, and then they start to weaken with age. Okay, so just like flowers, they bloom spectacularly before withering and dying. Okay, so there are no flowers that last through the 4 seasons. Yeah, I don't think there are any. I mean, some botanists might say there are some flowers that maybe uh, will bloom during the winter when most plant flowers wither and die. Okay, so that'd be, I think, one example is the plum flower. I think it's the plum flower. Yeah, I think. But it's rare. Okay, and even then, those flowers don't last through the summer or fall. Okay, all right. So the implication is everything in nature, including humans, and therefore human institutions, etc., empires, etc., civilizations, reach an extreme and then reverses itself. expanding and collapsing are two extremes of dealing with things. Okay, I mean that's how nature works. You can say. Okay, all right. So the key is in order to deflate or shrink the ego. Now we're talking about people now, right? One must first inflate or expand the ego. So in order to collapse something together, it must first expand. So as Tao cultivators, we must try to avoid these two extremes of handling matter. Okay. So we can see this is how nature is. Okay. There are two extremes, right? You reach, you expand, you grow, get stronger, et cetera, you know, but then you reach a peak. You cannot stay there forever. Okay. That's the key point. Okay. And then once you reach a peak, it's going to start declining. All right. So that's the way nature works. And so that's also how human, you can say, human failings, okay, work. Okay. So, if you have a ego, yeah, well, yeah, you can be arrogant, you can be capable, you can be strong, smart, whatever. Okay. But eventually you'll hit a peak and you can't stay there forever. Okay, in that state, it's gonna be on the decline. And so that's how nature works. So as Tao cultivators, we have to try to avoid these two extremes because that becomes duality, right? Extremes, right? Extremes, and that's how we should avoid. Okay, so this is the first couplet, first aspect of. Here comes the second one. Okay. Okay. Oops. Shoot. Okay. So the second couplet or second aspect, okay, is if one wishes to weaken it, one must first strengthen it. Okay, so okay, so this is similar to the first couplet, first line, which says, which talks about expanding and contraction, right? It's you apply the same principle from nature. So the way to weaken something is not to fight it directly, okay, which is pitting strength or force against force. So in a battle of attrition, okay, that's the conventional wisdom, conventional thinking. So to fight fire with fire is not the best strategy, okay? So another meaning is instead, in order to weaken something, you should make it stronger. So that's kind of counterintuitive, right? So this thing seems to go against common sense, okay? Now, this seems paradoxical, but it's not really a paradox. It's just a natural cycle of things. Okay. Further understanding is now he's using Lao Tzu was using these two qualities. Okay, weakness and strength. To show the extremes. So it's a trope. It's an analogy. You can say imagery, allegory, substitution, even. Okay. Okay. Metonymy. Okay. Just like the first line about something expanding and contracting, right? So yes, we can use that cycle or that quality to describe, human nature, right? Arrogance, ego, etc., and also, empires, uh, civilizations, etc., etc. Okay, so that it's just representative. Okay, so here it is by letting something become stronger until it cannot sustain itself, continuously, right? Then it will naturally become to weaken. That's the 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 you can say the lesson or the yeah the conclusion lesson. Okay, but by using these extremes, he's talking about expanding, uh, collapsing, weakening, strengthening, right? So that's what he's trying to use. All right. Okay. So or trying to convey, meaning. So hence, in order to weaken something, let it first become stronger. So similar to something we've encountered, in chapter 30, okay, section 4, the last section, which says, things become strong, right? And then get old. That is called contrary to Tao. Okay, that's for, okay. It's okay. So this is in the conclusion of chapter 30. Okay, something similar like this is also in chapter, I think, 50. Okay, so all right, so okay, so it's basically saying that these extremes, like become strong. You reach the peak. So it's like your strength reaches its max, or you expand to the high, to the peak. But then everything will decline. You'll get older, weaker after that. Okay, so those are the dualities, and that's contrary to the Tao, because Tao is lasting. It's always constant, right? Okay. So the implication is weakening and strengthening are two extreme opposites of duality. Just like the first couplet of this chapter about expanding and collapsing. Okay, same thing. All right. But the key is that you don't want to follow these two extremes. That's the whole point. So there's a middle path. That's the lasting Tao. That is found between these two extremes. Okay, in this couplet, it's between the two extremes of weakness and strength. Okay, so we don't want to follow these extremes. Okay, that's the problem. Or go down the path of two extremes. Okay, all right. Okay, that's that. Okay, so that's the second couplet. The third couplet. So if one wishes to discard it, one must first promote it. All right. Okay. Okay. So basic meaning line is, as a nature, in order to abandon something, it must first be promoted. Okay. So what is that? All right. Let's use an example. Okay. In life, a particular fad gets promoted and hyped, right? Advertised, commercial, splashed all over the billboards, etc. So it becomes all the rage, right? But as the buzz dies down, the novelty is soon forgotten and discarded. So we have many examples, especially in modern society, right? We've, I guess this is too old for most people, but there are such things as pet rocks. That was a big fad. I think it was in the 70s or 80s. Toys, we see that all the time, right? Well, today it'll be games, gaming stations, the, I don't know, latest, I don't know, latest Microsoft, I don't know, whatever, Xbox, they call it, I say, so Nintendo, Sony, PlayStation, whatever, and fashion, etc. Right? I mean, just right? It becomes all the rage, but then what? After a while, it's gone because there's something else that comes to replace it, right? Okay. So additional meaning in line is, this seems to be the way of the material world, right? The material world, where something is popular, flourishes, and after some time loses its appeal and then abandoned or forgotten, discarded, etc. Okay? So the lesson we draw from this seeming, natural recurring cycle is, in order to abolish something, it must first be promoted. That's what the counterintuition, right? We think, oh, that's paradoxical, but that's just the cycle of things. Okay, the cycle, the natural cycle. Okay, because and we'll talk about it in the next second line, but deeper understand, similar to the concept from the first line above, where something will be abandoned or be on the decline when it has reached its peak of popularity or the height of development. Okay, so now, why is this always seems to be always repeat itself, or it means it may seem counterintuitive, but it happens time and time again. Okay, so this trend is cyclical because no material thing lasts forever. No phenomena is permanent, right? Remember the part of the three Dharma seals, anicca, right? That's from Buddhist teachings, right? So nothing lasts forever, especially in phenomena. The only thing that lasts forever is the Tao and the Buddha nature essence. Okay, all right. Okay, so everything else, anything that has a form, well, even formless, but for our purposes, in the material world, that means there's a form, right? Shape or form. Nothing lasts forever. So just as nature, right? Spring doesn't last forever, right? Summer doesn't last forever. And hopefully this winter doesn't last forever. I mean, there's some parts of the US in the South which never had snow, well, not never had snow. They didn't have snow in 100 years, but now they got it, especially the cold, right? When, the water pipes froze and burst. Okay, yeah, so that's not going to last forever. Eventually, spring is going to arrive, right? Temperatures will rise, right, etc. So, okay, unless, yeah, we live in the poles, but even the poles have 2 seasons. But anyway, okay, all right. So the implication is discarding and promoting are two opposite extremes of duality. Once again, because all things are impermanent. All right. So once again, these are opposite extremes of duality. Right. Okay. So the key point is here it is. Okay. The Tao. Now, so you ask, well, then what can last? Then what is the characteristics? Well, here it is. The Tao does not promote itself. So it will never be abolished or never be discarded. Thus, the Tao is everlasting. Okay? Because the Tao does not promote. Remember, in previous chapters, we talk about the Tao does not flaunt, right? Does not boast, right? Does not take credit, right? For itself, say, hey, look, without the Tao, none of you will exist, or none of this can happen, right? The Tao doesn't do that, right? It doesn't. It doesn't promote. It just naturally does its own thing, right? It self reflects itself. It's natural. You can say innate qualities, if you will, right? That, right. So the Tao will always exist because of that. Okay. Because of that trait or quality, you can call it, right? The Tao doesn't promote, doesn't flaunt, doesn't boast, right? Okay. All right. Doesn't dominate. Okay. So that's the key. All right. Okay. So that's the third couplet. Now the last couplet. Okay. So if one wishes to seize it, then one must first give it. Okay. So, I mean, this is, yeah, maybe, okay. That term is dual. Now, some texts, okay, depending on what version, uses this term duo, which means to seize, okay, to take by force. Other text will use this term qu, means also to. It doesn't mean to seize; it just means to grasp, to take. Okay, all right. So this term is a little bit more aggressive or stronger than this. Okay, but it's the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing. This is yu. Yu means to grant, to give, to offer. Okay? All right. So the basic meaning of line is in order to get something, one must first give up something. Okay? So in economics, this is called no free lunch. All right. Okay. So this is in line with economic theory. Okay. You don't get something out of nothing or from nothing. It's quid pro quo. Okay, something for something else or something for another. Okay, all right, or this for that. Okay, all right. So that's basically what it means. All right. So another meaning is, so for example, in order to receive kindness, you must first give it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So additional meaning is, so the wise cultivator of Tao will work backwards, figure out what you want in life, and then take the initiative to give it to others first. Okay, so work back. Okay, if you know, oh, what your goal is, okay, what your wish to attain or achieve, then you work backwards to, to by giving it, then you will obtain it. All right. Okay. So, all right. So similar. Okay. We've talked about this previously. It's similar to requite the like for the like. That means to pay back. Requite means to give back. Give back. Okay. To be repaid, the same with what you gave. Remember the golden rule or the silver rule, right? Right. Right. In the Bible, the golden rule, right? What you wish, right? Do unto what you wish others to do to you, you should do the same to them, right? Okay, so, all right. So now this is based on law of causality, such as karma. Okay, so this is you can say a consequence or another way of viewing the law of causality. Okay, right? So if you wish to okay, I'm not talking about enlightenment, okay, transcending causality, but let's say if you want to follow, causality, the logic, if you will. So let's say if you wish to, you know, be better off. I mean, not necessarily. Okay, it doesn't have to be next lifetime. Okay, but let's say even in this lifetime, if you want to, be better off, right, or you know, get blessings, you say, receive blessings or whatever benefits in the future, well, you first must what? Do the same to others. Then others will repay back to you in kind in the future. Okay, so that's the general rule, right? Okay, that's how we teach our kids, right? If you want to be treated with respect, right? Right? With kindness, then you do the same you give kindness and respect to others, right? Same logic, right? That's the idea, okay? And so that's nature. That's how it works. Okay. All right. Okay. So higher understanding. Okay. So as in fishing, right? Suppose you want to catch a fish. Okay. So in order to catch or seize the fish, one must first provide or give it with what? A bait, right? Yeah, right. I mean, I'm not advocating fishing because because we're all are Tao cultivators, and we don't want to kill life, but that's how it works, right? You watch people, you use either bait fish or little tiny bits of fish or worm, right? In order to catch a bigger fish, right? Okay, so now, there's a story called The Fox and the Crow from, I've heard of Aesop's Fables, right? Aesop is, okay, in Chinese it's called 伊索寓言, right? 寓言, okay, so it's 狐狸见乌鸦. Okay, the fox encountering the crow or meeting the crow. Aesop is a very interesting character. All right. Now, historians, sometimes debating, who he was because there's no real. There were historical records. Okay. Mentioning him. He happened to be a slave, by the way. Okay, and a storyteller. Now, the interesting about Aesop's life was that, it just so happens he lived roughly about the same time as Lao Tzu, believe it or not. Yeah, roughly 600 to 550 BCE, okay, before Common Era. So roughly 2,550, 2,600 years ago. It's they overlap, okay, with Lao Tzu's, okay, roughly, okay. All right. Now, the Aesop's tale, he had fables, okay. They're all very short stories, okay. And I don't know if if you were when you were children, if you read some of his fame, well, stories that's attributed to him anyway. All right. So there are at least, supposedly there are at least 200-300 fable stories that they say most historians or experts can attribute to him, and then there are many more afterwards that they also attribute to him. But okay, that's beside the point. But the fox and the crow is one famous such. And now the problem why we have these issues is because back then, 2,500, 2,600 years ago, in Greece, okay, he was a Greek, okay, anyway, all right, they didn't have paper. Okay, so a lot of the stories or fables, tales, were passed down through oral tradition. Okay, just like in Buddha's time, all the sutras were not written down until like 400-500 years. 400-500 years after Buddha's nirvana, parinirvana. You know that? Okay. All right. Now, Lao Tzu is different. Okay, in that the Tao Te Ching was written, while he was still alive. So that's a little bit different. But anyway, so the story now, a lot of the stories, I won't say a lot, practically all his tales or fables contain, let's say, we can say, a moral. I don't mean morality, but contains a lesson. You can say a teaching point. All right. Okay. So this is a very short story. It's called the Fox and the Crow. Okay. So this is one famous story. Okay. So one day a fox, he was hungry, so he's searching for food, right? Searching for something to eat, and then he came across, I think it's like a tree. Okay, a tree. He walked under the tree, and then he looked up, and he saw a crow, okay, on one of the branches, and the crow happened to have found a large piece of cheese. Okay, we said cheese in its beak, and he was about to, the crow was about to, swallow the cheese, for his breakfast or whatever. Okay, so the fox, being hungry, quickly looked up and said to the crow, "Good morning, crow. Let's see, how do you do? You're such a beautiful bird. You look so great. How are you? Good morning to you." The crow, the crow has seen foxes before, okay, and so for the crow, it's not a big surprise, okay. And the crow wasn't scared because he's on a tree and a fox couldn't catch him, couldn't jump, and so the crow just ignored the fox and still was intent on swallowing that big chunk of cheese. So quickly the fox said again, when the crow ignored him, the fox continued and said, "Oh, you're such a beautiful bird. Your feathers are so shiny. You look so, pretty, so great. So I'm sure, you can sing, birds, right? Sing. Okay, I don't know about crows. they call it. Okay, CAW. But anyway, okay. So I'm sure, your voice must be beautiful too, just like, your appearance, your feathers, etc., etc. So I'm pretty sure your voice must be beautiful, must be absolutely fantastic." So then the crow, when he heard this, he was wondering, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know I'm a pretty bird. Yeah, I have beautiful feathers, etc., etc. Yeah, but you know what? My voice is pretty good too. So then he thought, yeah, I'll show the fox. I'm gonna show the fox. So then the crow opened its mouth and began to, start to, call or sing. I guess, I don't know, sing. As the crow did that, opened its beak, the cheese dropped down from the tree branch and fell into the fox's mouth. Okay, and then the fox quickly grabbed the cheese and swallowed it for its breakfast. And so he turned around and said to the crow, "You know, you let's see what's it. You do you're not dumb, meaning that that you can call, you have a voice, you can you can sing, if you will. I don't know. Okay, and you indeed do have a beautiful voice. You have everything, crow, but where's your wit?" Okay, so end of story. All right, so the whole point is that the fox is noted for being what, cunning, right? It uses its wit, right, its brains, if you will, instead of its brawn, because the fox is generally it's not like a lion or a tiger, right? It doesn't have a big size, so it relies on its wit. Most foxes are no bigger than most dogs. Okay, all right, so they'll probably lose if they go strength to strength. If they use strength against a dog. A big German Shepherd will probably kill the fox. Out. Okay, so the fox uses its cunning, right? And so the fox knew that, hey, at least for the fox, okay, in this case, it's flattery will get you everywhere, right? He flattered. He used, you can say, deception, right? He used flattery to get what he wanted, which is that cheese from the crow. And unfortunately, the crow, his ego was stroked, so therefore, he lost the cheese. Okay, so this is, so how does it relate to this couplet? Well, right, in order to get something, right, to receive something, you first have to give something. So in this case, the fox gave the crow what? Flattery, form of flattery. And so what he got was, the cheese, okay, what he needed for breakfast. Okay, all right. So I mean, so this just as a FYI, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, a lot of Aesop's fables are like that. Now, just as a side, in Buddha's teachings, or the in Chinese, it's called the 12部经, right? The 12 categories of, you can say, teachings, okay, or teachings or scriptures, okay, or sutras of Buddhas. There's just one category, right? There are 12 of them, okay. There's called is it? Yeah, 度多, what was it? 度多okay, which is Jataka, okay, it's the Jataka. It's called the 度多家. Sorry, 度多家. Okay, it's the narratives of Buddha's past lives. Now in those narratives, right, it's fairly long. Okay, it's a fairly long because Buddha, was trying to, he was talking about karma, but he's talking about his previous life. Now, Buddha talked in those tales, in the Jataka tales, or 度多家 category of his teachings. He mentioned his previous life, not just as a human. Okay, in his previous life, he was a human before. He was a prince and even a king, I think. Anyway, doesn't. But he also told his disciples that he was an animal. He was different type of animals. Yeah, he was a horse, I think, at one time. He may have been a bird or a fish, etc. Okay, it doesn't matter. But the whole point is, a lot of that Jataka tales, he was trying to illustrate, okay, talking about his past life, either as a human or as an animal in this case, and try to pass on a teaching point, a moral, right, a moral of that story. Okay, so it's very similar to Aesop's fables. All of his stories has a, you can say, like a teaching point. So in this case, what Aesop's tale is telling us that, oh, there's a moral to the story that, don't let your guard down, be, when people flatter you. Okay, in this case, this is flattery. Okay, all right, when people say good, you know, good things in front of you, stroking your ego. You have to be careful. Now, this is similar to, what's it, chapter 12, if I remember correctly, right? Chapter 12, we're talking about, chapter 13, sorry. The title of the chapter is called Favor and Disgrace, or 宠辱, right? 宠辱, right? He said, favor and disgrace seem equally fearful, right? Okay. Favor and a favor is high, disgrace is low. Okay. All right. So, all right. So that's also okay. We have to be careful. All right. So that's chapter 12. Okay. Sorry, 13. You guys can look it up. All right. Okay. All right. So we just have to be careful. Okay. So the implication of this fourth couplet is that in order to receive something, you must first give something. Okay. All right. So that's it's just natural. Okay. Nature. Okay. So as in nature, in order to receive something, one must give up something. This is the principle of nature. So one must give to others in order to receive from others. This is how karma works. All right. So as Tao cultivators, though, okay, here it is. We should not expect to receive something when we give to others, because this will create karma. All right. So if you want to avoid karma, it's not that you can't give. No, you should give to others, give respect, etc., etc. Okay, all that. All right. Okay, kindness, compassion, etc., etc. But you don't expect to receive something in return. That's the key. Okay, so that's called what? Non-conditioned, right? Wu Wei, right? Which we will talk about more in also chapter 37. And also in the previous chapters, we have talked about that already, right? Okay. So, and the reason why you do things unconditionally is because that will what? Not fall into karma or the karmic cycle. Because once you have an expectation, then you have what? We say motivation. So that becomes conditioned, right? Your way, that becomes conditional. And once you have conditions, that's karma. That's the seed of karma, the planting the seed of karma, right? You established a cause. So once you have a cause, there's going to be a consequence down the line, right? Okay, down the road. So that's why we don't want to do that. Okay. You don't want to do that, because if you're stuck in karma, you're not going to transcend samsara, right? Okay. Or the endless cycle, okay, of birth and death. All right. So that's why. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So here's the conclusion of section 1. To understand these four, these, in this case, Lao Tzu just pointed out these four, you can say, extreme dualities, right? So this is called subtle clarity. So what Lao Tzu wanted to convey is that in the first previous 4 couplets, he was describing that's the nature of things, okay? Especially in this material world, in the world of phenomena, right? That there are extremes of duality, and you want to avoid them. Okay, so that's called, if you understand that, okay, that's called subtle clarity, because the Tao is not in those extremes. Okay, all right, okay, so okay, Ming means bright, okay, clear, okay, clear. All right. Okay, so here's the basic meaning. Lao Tzu knew that the above four couplets, the previous eight phrases, would not be readily understood or accepted because they seem very, counterintuitive or even paradoxical. Okay, so you know, most people would, reject that. Okay, reject. Okay, so each couplet contained profound wisdom that seemed to be the opposite of something obvious. For example, right? To weaken something, most people would not think of weakening something by strengthening it first. They would try to weaken it directly instead of the indirect approach, right? Okay, so that's why. Okay, so Lao Tzu is trying to convey that, you know, it seems counterintuitive, right? Okay, that's how nature works. So if you can understand that clearly, then that's called subtle clarity. Okay, that you understood the subtleness, okay, of how nature works, okay, or the natural cycle of things, and humans too, human nature, okay. So here's the additional understand meaning is to do the opposite, okay, to expand instead of shrink, strengthen instead of weaken, promote instead of discard, give instead of seize. Okay, these are the four couplets: expand, shrink, strengthen, weaken, promote, discard, give, and seize. Means here it is. Okay, two things. Initially, oops. Okay, initially, you may appear to yield or give in, while some may prefer to be confrontational instead. Right? Okay, so that means that. But you also must think in terms of long term strategy. People usually prefer immediate gratification or quick payoff. So that's where you can say, if you understand, oh, how these four, well, you can say extremes, or four aspects or qualities of how nature works, okay, then you can see the bigger picture, the long term. So rather than submit or give in to the short term temptation of immediate, results or gratification, you can see the bigger picture. You can see the long term, and okay. So do that. All right. So first, you initially, you know, appear to give in, right? To be contrarian, if you will, okay, counterintuitive, but yet you see the big picture, so you know what the long-term result is going to be. Okay, all right. So further understanding is that because of these two reasons, the one and two here, most people will not understand the wisdom contained in the above four couplets. Okay, the four couplets. All right. Okay, here's the deeper meaning of Ming. Okay, it's this. It's to know the permanent changelessness. Okay, it's to, and then the non-transforming forming is to be completely free of ignorance. Is to have total awareness. Is to know, understand the Tao principles. Okay, that's from section 2 of chapter 16. Return to one's nature, which says returning to one's nature is called constancy. Okay, constancy. Okay, that's the Tang part. Okay, that's this. That's this. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. And knowing constancy is called clarity. That's what this is. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, now the deeper understanding of Wei means subtle clarity. Literally, it means this: subtle or profound clarity. It's what the true principles of Tao are in the minute details, not in the superficial things. Okay, it just means that it's hidden. It's very subtle. Okay, it's hidden. It's not necessarily very obvious that we see what the obvious thing is. Okay, so it's not in the superficial things. Okay, so that's what Lao Tzu is trying to tell us, convey that, oh, we see things, that's either very strong, very weak. We think, oh, that's natural. Those are the natural laws. Okay, so therefore that's the Tao. That's not true. Okay, so that's why Lao Tzu wants to convey that. Okay, so the higher understanding is this: to understand the Tao principles, we must look at the long-term results and not the immediate results. Okay, very important. All right. And in general, people tend to prefer immediate results, so they will often prefer the short-term solution, the direct and confrontational approach over the long-term benefit of concept. So that's the failing of most people, or people who don't understand, right? Who don't know the subtlety of the Tao. Okay, don't have the subtle clarity. So because most people prefer the quick result and immediate gratification, they would not understand the longer term consequences. That's why we have karma, right? Right? People say, hey, I'm gonna get what I want right now. Not realizing that that's gonna create future consequences, and therefore that just what extends this vicious cycle, right? Give and take, etc., etc. Okay, and that's how karma comes about. So this is a subtle clarity that is not easily understood. The principles of Tao are in the subtle, minute areas, okay, or things. Okay, so now we reach the section 2 conclusion. It says the soft overcomes the tough, the weak overcomes the strong. Okay, so this is counterintuitive too, right? So how can that be, right? Rather than to meet force with force in the Tao, it is better to follow nature and let the soft overcome the hard, the weak outlast the strong. Yeah. Okay. So another meaning is in nature, it seems, hey, no. Well, give an example. Okay, so in nature, this is seen in water. Water is soft, right? Yeah, it's malleable. Well, it's more than malleable. It's shapeless, right? Okay, as a form, but it's shapeless. And yet, this soft water, okay, dissolves hard rocks. Hard rocks are definitely tough, right? Okay, marble, right? Over time, right? It takes time. But today, in modern technology, like a lot of the road work or in construction, when I don't know if you've seen or heard this, you know, when they mine marble, marble or granite, very hard, right? Marble and granite are very, hard rocks. So in the old days, they used a diamond, what do you call that? Diamond tipped or diamond edged saw to grind, to cut through. Nowadays, they use water under tremendous high pressure, and then they use that. Spray it. Oh yeah, spray it. Jet the water like a hose, right? But it's very thin. Okay, under high extreme pressure, and it'll cut through. Believe it or not, yeah, the rock, the granite or marble. Okay, so how dripping drops of water over time will drill through the hardest rocks. Okay, so I mean, okay, so this, you've seen many examples. If you've been to the Grand Canyon, right? No, the Colorado River, which is water, right? River, erodes over, millions of years. The rock. Well, in this case, the rock wasn't, super hard rock, but it's sedimentary rock, and it carved out this canyon that's like a mile high or a mile deep. Okay, all right. So additional understanding is this is evidence in seeing how our tongues, which is soft, right? Our tongues are soft, right? Will survive far longer than our teeth, which is hard, right? Which is very solid. It's a bone, right? It's made of enamel. There's a story about how Lao Tzu, in his later years, he would be, teaching his disciples this concept. Okay, so he would Now, this is when he's pretty old, right? Okay. Uh, he would not say anything, all right, to his disciples. He would just sit there, open his mouth, and stick out his tongue. Okay. Now, supposedly, most of the disciples didn't understand, what he meant, or he didn't say anything, or didn't, but one did and understood that. Oh, yeah, it's the tongue, which is soft, that will outlast your teeth because he had no teeth left. Okay, his teeth all fell out. Okay, so I mean that's a story. Okay, okay. All right. Further understanding. In nature, to be soft and pliant means one's alive, whereas to be brittle and hard or stiff means one's dead. So if you look at nature, or living things in general, okay, right? You look at tree, leaves, grass, pretty much. Okay, you know, a tree's branches, right, is pliant. That means it's flexible. Okay, flexible means it's alive, right? Whereas twigs, right, twigs or firewood are stiff, hard, dry. Well, they're dry. That's why. Okay, so they're brittle and hard. That means they're dead. Okay. Now, similarly with humans, right? Now, because we have the three treasures, we receive the Tao, we know that door is open, right? So when it's time to leave, if we leave through that door, what happens? We are all soft and flexible, right? Just like when we're alive. Whereas if we don't leave through that first the first treasure, that narrow door, right? Portal. What happens? Rigor mortis sets in, right? Rigor mortis means our body stiffen. Now, over time, it won't get hard because your chemical reactions, your body fluids will start decaying, and your muscle tissues, nerve fibers would decay. So you become soft again. Well, it's not soft. It's I don't know, mushy or whatever. Anyway, so but generally speaking, right? When most people, when anybody who just passed and who's who does not leave, whose spirit does not leave through that first the first treasure or that door, door, your body will be stiff, right? Okay, all right. So, all right, more understanding. As in Tai Chi. Okay, that's the exercise, the Tai Chi. Okay, Tai Chi Chuan. Okay, I should put some Chinese, but it doesn't matter. By yielding to draw the opponent further along his striking trajectory to cause him to lose his balance. So it's like judo, okay, roll down. Same idea, okay? So as in military strategy, it's about luring the enemy force into a well-planned ambush. Okay, all right, okay, all right. So it's counter to, right, that the weak will overcome strong. Okay, so or the soft will overcome the hard. So what is rigid or tough cannot last long, but the supple or soft can last longer. Okay, so that's the key. So that's the key point to this phrase. Okay, the soft overcomes the tough. It's that what's tough or hard or cannot, it doesn't endure. Okay, it won't endure, but the soft can last longer. Okay, so the strong or the tough, hard only lasts for a very short time, but the weak, soft, supple lasts for a longer time. Okay, that's the teaching point. So here, implication is that the soft can outlast the tough, the weak can outlast the strong. So Lao Tzu is trying to make us aware of these subtle strategies, okay, or subtle, you can say, natural characteristics, traits of nature. So we would recognize them when they are used against us, okay? So, for example, flattery, right? Okay. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So flattery, right? Okay. It's an example, okay, which is 语言, right? and deception, okay, 杂气, okay, example, all right, okay, so also to recognize the destructive potential of these strategies and not use them against others in a negative way, all right, so, the story of the fox and the crow, right, okay, so, the fox was using these strategies, right, these counterintuitive strategies to get what it wanted, right? Okay, all right. So in this case, it was flattery, right, and deception, you can say, right? Okay, all right. So we have to be careful, okay, because that's all right about these. Okay, so the key point is this: as Tao cultivators, we must not use or utilize these dualistic strategies. Okay, they are right. They are the two extremes, right? Remember, okay, for our own benefit at the expense of others. We have to be very careful. Okay, we cannot. We can understand that that's how it works, but we should never use them. Okay, for our own benefit. Okay, so at the expense of others. Okay, so it's like a zero sum game. Okay, that's an economics. Okay, or game theory. Okay, so you can only benefit at the cost or expense of others. So it's zero sum. Okay, all right. So we got to be careful because that's extremes. These are extremes. You either win or lose, right? There's no, win-win, okay, which is different. That's the Tao. Tao is win-win. Okay, but anyway, all right, okay. So let's, since I'm already, I'm gonna take some, okay, I got another 10 minutes, okay. So fish cannot leave or get out from the depths. Okay, is that kind of obvious? Okay, so the basic meaning is this. This line is purely metaphorical, okay? I mean, it's not stating the obvious, okay? The fish, in this case, represents the four above strategies. That's the what? So this is one meaning, okay? One very basic, one level, okay, meaning. The fish, in this case, is a metaphor, okay? It's not saying talk about a real fish, okay? It just represents those four strategies, from the four couplets, right, in the first section. Okay, those 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 you can say extremes, right, dualities, extremes. So another meaning is that fish swimming in the depths means that such strategies are kept as dark arts, okay, and recognized as dangerous or as detrimental to people as opposed to benefit them. So so that's one basic meaning is that these four uh, aspects or extremes, right, of the duality are dangerous because it's zero sum. Like I said, it's you can use it to harm others, and that's the problem. Okay, so all right, so by saying fishes cannot leave the depths is to say do not weaponize okay, these strategies against those who do not understand them because it can bring harm to others. But because the Tao is meant to be used in a positive and benefit way. Remember, win-win as opposed to zero sum. Why is this? Oh, okay. I guess that's right. Okay. All right. Now, here's another meaning. Now, that's one layer of meaning, okay? Very basic meaning. Okay. Another layer of meaning is that the depths or the yuan, okay, it's a metaphor for the true principles of heaven and earth. Okay, so you can say the true principles of nature, you can say that. Okay, so what it means is that the fish can only survive in the water, in the depths, right? So this is in line with the principles of heaven and earth, right? The fish cannot leave the water, right? Or the depths in this case, right? So it can be long lasting or enduring, okay? So it can survive, right? Humans are the same. So in order to survive or to be enduring, humans also cannot deviate from the principles of heaven and earth, okay? All right, so we can't deviate, okay? All right, so the deeper understanding is the fish cannot leave the water, it cannot survive outside of water or outside the depths. So, in order to endure like the fish, humans must enter into the realm of true principles and not fall into dualistic extremes, right? The first four couplets talk about those dualistic extremes. We cannot fall because if we enter into those dualistic extremes, we will continue in the cycle of karma, and that's the problem. Okay, so all right, so we must enter into the realm of true principles. Okay, so or the Tao. Okay, so when we are able to be long lasting, then everything will manifest our total awareness and understanding the Tao. Okay, so the implication is in the material world is dualistic, right? The phenomenal world is dualistic. So from within the dualistic manifestations, we can find the middle path. Find that's the subtle clarity part, right? Find where is the changeless truth or the eternal truth or principle. Okay, the Tao. Okay, so key point is this: when we are able to know where the truth is, just as the same as the fish living in the water, all are in the midst of the world of truth. So the key is we have to find out what is that middle path. What is the center? You can say, okay, now chapter 37, we'll talk about previous chapters. We also talked about it. Okay, what is to grasp the center, to embrace the one, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, implies here. Okay, last phrase of this chapter: the sharp instruments of the state cannot be shown to the people. That's the literal. Okay, that's what a literal translation means. Okay. Uh, yeah. Okay. This means country or state. This means something that's sharp. It could mean convenient, favorable, smooth, beneficial, etc. This means device. Okay, we've had this phrase. Okay, so the deeper meaning of this, of sharp implements or instruments, okay, is the metaphor for the dualistic four strategies from the first four lines of this chapter. You know, the four couplets, okay, the eight phrases. Okay, so basic meaning is this: the sharp instruments are potentially destructive strategies. So just like the fishes in the depths, these two phrases are literal warnings about the first four lines, about the, the, those four, extreme dualities. Okay. Here's another meaning: is on a national level or on a level, those who understand the Tao can easily apply these sharp instruments for conquest and warfare, right? In order to to expand, right? Okay, you have to shrink it, or if you want to shrink, you want to expand, right? Okay, all right. If you wish to weaken something, you have to strengthen it. Okay, so these are all strategies that you could use for conquest, for war, etc., etc., and which I'll get to in another story, but it's very long. But I'll introduce it, and you can look it up. Okay, so the additional meaning is phrases. Thus, for ministers advising the king, the goal is to know these strategies and understand them, but do not use them. Okay, all right, that's all right. Okay, okay. The basic meaning of the second. Now, this is the second phrase, right? Cannot be shown to the people is. Oops. Okay. Do not show the sharp instruments to the people is the equivalent of not letting the fish leave the depths. Same idea. Okay, from the previous phrase above. Okay, all right. So you don't want to display these type of knowledge, okay, or understanding, because then what? People who then are pursuing their own selfish, benefit or ends, then will start applying these strategies to the detriment of other people just for their own selfish ends. So that's the problem. So that's why we have to be careful. Okay, so that's why sages do not show. Okay, we're not advise the kings to do that. Okay, so another meaning is to be in possession of sharp instruments means you understand how the pattern, the natural cycle works, and have the ability to put it to use if you have to, right? But you shouldn't. Okay, now, okay, so how do we apply these strategies in real life? Well, there are many stories that you could probably find, in instances of these four, the first four couplets. But here's it is. Okay, here's one. Okay, additional. Okay, here it is. Okay, here, this is very important. Okay, so we should know the real understanding of this teaching will also allow you to use it skillfully in a constructive rather than destructive way. Okay, now this is the story of the 7 captures of Meng Huo. Okay, it's from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It's a historical novel in ancient China, roughly 1800 years ago, right? 1800 plus. This is 220 to 280. That's the period. Okay, it's the. I don't want to give history lessons. You guys can look it up. It's the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. 三国演义 is one of the 4, believe it or not, 4 Chinese classics of literature. It's one of the. I think it's long. It's the longest. It's one of the longest. It's originally in the, I think it was in the Song Dynasty or one of the later dynasties, roughly like what, 500 years later, 600 years later, a novelist compiled the stories, okay, and combined them, edited together. It came out to like 900,000 words or something like that, and 24 volumes or something. And then later on, they edited it in the Ming Dynasty or in the Qing Dynasty to like 700,000 words and 120 chapters. So it's long. And this story, I most of you have probably heard of it. It's an epic. It's called Yan Yi, means now Yan Yi is these 2 words. Yan Yi, it means literally historical novel that's been, I don't want to say embellished, but it's been romanticized. That's why the translation is called Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It means that they either included in their I mean, they use actual history, historical events, historical figures, okay, to tell the story. But then there may be parts of the story that could be, has added like, maybe legendary things, or stories that maybe not 100% historical, but okay. So it's like that's what they call it. It's a historical novel. Okay, so in here, I mean, there are literally in this Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Okay, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of characters, of figures, historical figures. Okay, etc., etc. Okay, and the plots, it expands the whole spectrum. Okay, there are major plots, there are different subplots, different twists. There's how can I say, there are what do you call that, they have agreements or alliances, and then they have double cross, triple cross, all the intrigues, twists and turns of plots occur in the story. So and there are many characters, but there are a couple of them, okay, that maybe you should know. Okay, so first and foremost, our guardian of the law, 法律主, right? The chief guardian, you can say the chief guardian of the law of heaven. Okay, that's it's Guansanji. Okay, it's Guansanji. It's Marshal Guan. He was a real historical figure in this period. Okay, he was a marshal, general. Marshal is bigger than general. He commanded armies, huge armies, and he fought for one of the kingdoms. Okay, under another character, historical character, or historical name, sorry, a historical person, Liu Bei. Okay, Liu Bei. Okay, who was. I can't go into history because it's going to take too long. As a matter of fact, this story, the 7 captures of Meng Huo, 七擒孟获, it's going to take about 25, 30 minutes just to, tell. Okay. So I don't have time for that, but you guys can look it up. Okay. It's very interesting. But just to go back to some of the central characters, we say Guansanji, okay, or they call it Guan Lao Ye, okay, Guan Gong. He's one of them. He's part of the what we call the three oath brothers, okay, of the, what's the translation of the peach orchard, right? Tao Yuan, right? Tao Yuan San, I guess it's San Xiong, I don't know, the three brothers, okay, of the peach orchard. Okay, I think that's the it's him. It's our chief guardian of the law, Guansanji, or you can say he's the Jade Emperor, right? Yu Huang Da Di, right? The Jade Emperor of the celestial heaven, right? That's our Guansanji. Then along with the other second person of the four guardians of the law, right? The 各位法律主, right? The four, there were four of them, right? So we have Guan, Guansanji. Then we have there are three others, but the other person is Zhang Fei. Okay, he also was a general, a big general in the Greek kingdoms too. Okay, so he was one of the three oath brothers of the peach orchard, the Tao Yuan San Xiong, I guess that's the translation. I don't know. Along with Liu Bei, and they swore an oath, as brothers, to be brothers, to defend, you can say, the kingdom. They're thinking called I think it's called Su Han, yeah, Su Han, which is in present day central West China, Sichuan province. That would be part of that. Okay, to defend that kingdom and to reestablish the Han lineage, the Han dynasty. So this period, 200, roughly 220 AD, what we say AD or CE, is at the tail end of the Eastern Han dynasty, Dong Han, okay, the Eastern Han, which collapsed. And then there's, that's what led to the breakup of the Han dynasty, and it kind of like fell into three, or consolidated into three different kingdoms. The other two, okay, so Su Han is the kingdom of Liu Bei, right? He was a like distant relative to the Han emperor, something like that. But anyway, that there are two other kingdoms called the Wei, and then there's the Wu. Okay, now the Wei is the other character, the other central character, or we call the main villain of this novel. It's Cao Cao. Okay, we say his name is called Cao, or Cao Wei. Yeah, they say. Okay, all right. So I don't want to go into a history lesson. There's so much. This is like an epic novel, 120 chapters at least. Okay, several 100,000 words. Okay, there are so many different plots and chapters. So this is one of them. This happens later after, I think this is after Liu Bei's death even. Okay, anyway, but you guys can look it up. There's been a lot of movies, TV shows, cartoons, even other novels that came from that based on this. So it's that's a separate thing for you if you're interested in in ancient Chinese history. But it has really relevance in today's world too, believe it or not. Okay, did you know that they study some of these strategies or plots or events or whatever you call them in a lot of military academies, by the way, or high level, they call it high level strategic classes or studies. Okay, anyway, okay, so the 7 chapters has to do with another main character. His name is Zhuge Liang. Okay, Zhuge Liang happens to be one of the he's like well known in Chinese history as the, you can say, the expert on military strategy. Okay, and he was the, you can say, the chief military strategist for the Shu Han kingdom, or the Liu Bei's kingdom, and so he helped guide, led the military strategies for our Guansanji and Zhang Fei, et cetera, all those other military generals. Okay, so and this is the story of Zhuge Liang. I think his other name is called Kong Ming or Kong Che, something like that. Anyway, about him capturing Meng Huo is a character in this story. He's a warlord or war chieftain of some southern tribes in southwestern China, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so it's a story about that. And in this story, this is a fairly long story. Okay, Zhuge Liang employed some of those 4 strategies that we talked about earlier in this chapter. Okay, so that's what it is. I mean, I can't go into the story. But it's very good, and there's some lessons to be drawn from that. Okay, which is that he was tolerant. Zhuge Liang was very tolerant. So you have to give in order to get. Okay. He gave a lot of chances to him. As a matter of fact, this Meng Huo was captured 7 times, by the way, okay, by Zhuge Liang. So that's why it's called that story, okay? And he also, how can I say, Zhuge Liang was able to apply these 4 strategies, okay? He looked at the long term, okay, as opposed to for immediate short term gain. Okay, so you guys can look it up. It's very fascinating story. It's this happened later in the period of this. Okay, during this period, I think it's after Liu Bei's passing too, and after Guansanji's capture and passing too. But anyway, it just illustrates. Okay, all right. So here it is. Okay. Further, I'm sorry I took too long, but anyway. Okay. Further understanding. 2 ways to apply this teaching for positive benefits in your life is let karma work for you. For all the good things you would like to receive from others, begin a regular practice to give it to others first, right? The golden rule. Okay. To naturally expand and strengthen your position in a positive way, start by shrinking and weakening your ego. Put yourself into a humble state of mind so you're willing to learn from everyone to be in the lowest position. Remember, like the mountain streams that flow into the ocean, right? That previous chapters. Okay. I think that's chapter, what's that, 28? Just previous chapters. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. What's that? Okay. These methods will work for you in the long run because they're not immediate. Okay. Now there's another metaphor for the country. So now we're talking about this is the basic one interpretation. It has to do with at the national level, right? At the kingdom, but also applies to us individually. So the metaphor for kingdom is also for our human mind, or specific for our dualistic human mind. So the deeper understanding is on a personal level is Tao cultivators also must not display nor apply these qualities of sharp instruments. They may know of and understand them, but must not use them. Okay, so the higher understanding is the principles of Tao are found in the subtle details of nature and humanity. So they are not revealed like the sharp instruments, which are from the extremes of the dualistic human mind. Okay, so they are not. The Tao is not the sharp instruments, okay, or strategies. Okay, all right. So on a national level, the nation's sharp instruments are used for killing or conquest. So if you display them, then it is an expression of property. In this case, the entire nation attain peace and calm. All right. So this is not within the true principles. Okay. Now the human, for Tao cultivators, we must display compassion, humility, and not rage, arrogance, or aggression, which are sharp instruments. Okay, key point is this, the conclusion is it needs to be able to show restraint. It cannot flaunt its weapons, sharp instruments. It is the same for the person of Tao. By knowing the patterns of nature and humans is to understand the true principles from the subtle things or the minutiae. Okay, this is called subtle clarity. Now, I'm sorry I went over, but at the very end here, some keys to chapter 36. So you guys can read it. It's pretty straightforward. All right. So I took too long, but anyway, this concludes this chapter's outline. So there are things that I did not say correctly or properly. I ask for the Buddha's and Laozi's forgiveness.